What is going on, everybody? This is the Fourth in Fantasy podcast. Back at you again. My name's Meek. I'm here with my co-host Wu.
What's going on?
Wu, first episode came out. Getting a lot of love on that. Make sure you hit us up on our socials. Twitter at Fourth in Fantasy Pod, Instagram at Fourth in Fantasy. We're on TikTok, YouTube. Show some love, and you guys have been showing us a lot of love.
Yeah, absolutely. All the comments, all the likes, we see it all. We appreciate it, and we just want to keep growing for you guys. So feel free to let us, if there's things that you like, don't like. We want to hear it all. We want to make sure we're putting out the best product, so definitely let us know.
Definitely, yeah. Like I said in the previous episodes, we're here for the long haul. We're gonna give you everything we got, and what if there's something that you want to see. We're gonna give it to you. Okay. So we are continuing our series of our year in review. So we've done quarterbacks. Episode 2 of first part of the running backs are going to come out. Today we're gonna do the second half of the running backs. So first half was running backs 24 to 13. Today we're gonna get into running backs 12 to 1. But before we do that, we're going to give you some quick question of the day. Woo, my quick question of the day for you is, what is the dream landing spot for a rookie that would make you want to spend it all?
Yeah, so, it's that time of the year where the mocks start to come out and you get a little bit excited of predictions on where people are going to go. And mine might be a little bit of a layup, but I just think it would be a huge landing spot for him. I'm going to say Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys. I think he goes early. He put up an insane year. Probably should have been the Heisman, but we don't have to talk about that. I'm going to say Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys. He just gives me Ezekiel Elliott vibes.
Yeah.
That big frame, a little bit shorter, but man, can the dude break tackles and just create big plays for teams. So I think that would be a great spot for Dallas. Dallas has kind of lacked that run game that we had seen with prime Ezekiel Elliott for a couple years. So I think this would be a really good spot for him. They do need some upgrades to the offensive line as well to pair with Jeanty, but I think that would be a really good pick for them.
Yeah, listen, I love that pick. Obviously it is the layup, but we've definitely taken a little bit of time to look into some rookies, and like when you look at the stats, and he is just a beast, just absolute beast. I can't wait when we get into our rookie previews and talk about Ashton Jeanty. Like when I think about it from a dynasty startup perspective, like I truly think he's probably like your running back 3. Like it might be bold, but like he is an amazing talent.
Yeah, he's that talented.
You know what I mean? Like when I think about dynasty startup, like you probably want Bijan at 1 because he's that elite talent. Then Gibbs, and then I think Jeanty kind of slots right in there. I also am going to go running back. I've talked about this one in the past. This one is someone who's related to my favorite team. I know, but I think my dream landing spot is Quinshon Judkins to the Los Angeles Chargers. What you're going to see when we talk about, this rookie class is this running back class is loaded.
Big time.
There's loaded at running back talent. If you have an opportunity to acquire picks for running backs in your rookie draft, do everything you can to do that, because there are so many other, assets. But Quinshon Judkins, had a true freshman breakout at Ole Miss. The man was a stud. Transfers to Ohio State and shares a backfield with TreVeyon Henderson. And, some people, you raise eyebrows. It's great for the team, Ohio State, right? Because you have 2 dynamic players,
yep.
At the running back position. But you think it's going to hurt the value of Quinshon Judkins, and this guy just performs all year long.
Didn't hurt him at all
The way to a national championship, right? So that is my pick for dream draft pick. So we're going to move into our fantasy finishes. Like I said before, ladies and gentlemen, last episode we went through running backs 24 to 13. So today we're going to go from 12 to 1. And when we talk about these running backs, we're obviously going to give you where they finished, what their ADP was, when you drafted them, what their total points are, and then give you their stats, rushing and receiving. Talk about some potential highlight performances for them, and where they finished in the first half versus the second half. And the reason why we do that, Woo, right, is because it's so important to give the audience a understanding of, you know, what the first half of the year, where this person was versus where the second half is, because you might have a player who, you know, in the first half of the year didn't perform really well and he hurts you, and that sour taste kind of stays in your mouth. But then if you look at the second half of the year and they're, you know, great talent, you have to kind of put both pieces together in order to understand that. So, you know, just quick background on those things. So we're going to get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Number 12 on our list is Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, drafted as a running back 58, finishes as a running back 12. So that's massive. 242 fantasy points, 1,122 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, 5.4 yards per carry, which is awesome. And then, you know, gave it to you in the receiving game, right? And this is what he was known for in Oregon: 47 receptions on 52 targets, 392 yards. First half of the year, he was the running back 26. Second half of the year, he was the running back 9, right? And we talk about this. First thing we see in our notes, right? It was the Bucky show in the second half of the season. Absolutely, you know, you saw the offense in the first half of the year. It was mostly like Baker chucking the ball to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and it started to change a little bit when you lost Godwin for the year, and Mike Evans was hurt with the hamstring injury. You know, you had to give the ball to Bucky and just kind of took over.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said, you know, the NFL, it's a shorter season, or it's a very short season compared to, you know, other professional sports. But even with those limited games, it's the season's, it's still a long time, you know, where you can have a slow start in the first half, and can really turn around the second half, and, you know, the production can be great, and even on the flip side, you know, vice versa. So I mean, what a rookie campaign for Bucky Irving. I had no idea who he was coming into the year. And you know, we in the first part of this running back episode, we talked about his running mate with Rachaad White, who had just come off a huge year, and you were expecting Rachaad White to continue that, especially with how involved he is in the passing game. But wow, Bucky Irving, man, really is so explosive and can rip off some big chunk plays. And he, like we had said, he a slow start to the half, but he was a rookie already, you know, running with someone like Rachaad White, and for him to take over in that second half really is a tribute to how talented he is.
Absolutely. Like I'm looking at some of his box scores, right? And you know, first half of the year, you see, you know, 42% of the snaps, 35% of the snaps, and then the bye week hits, and, you know, they started to really get him more involved. 52%, 54%. You know, week 18 he had 72% of the snaps.
Yeah.
You know, it was right after that bye week where you know, Todd Bowles really, you know, handed the keys to the backfield off, you know, to Bucky, which was great to see. You know, he was definitely great in the fantasy playoffs for you. He was huge. running back 4, right? Gave you an awesome game. You know, the other things though that, you know, concern me with Bucky is, you know, the injuries that he dealt with, right?
He is a smaller guy,
right? I believe he's 195 pounds.
Yeah.
5'10", 195. You know, but he plays physical. Like, it's kind of crazy, right? Like,
yeah.
He's a smaller guy, but he plays physical in between the tackles, and that wasn't what you expected from Bucky Irving coming out of Oregon. But the injuries I am a little concerned about, you know, moving on. You know, there's also the question marks of, you know, Liam Cohen left, and you know, they bring in a new offensive coordinator. So what does that look like for him? But, you know, I think this, you know, we talk about, you know, dynasty and things like that. You know, I think Bucky Irving is probably the most sought after asset probably this offseason.
Yeah. An episode ago when we talked about, you know, our trade for target that we're looking for in Dynasty, Bucky was the first name that came to mind.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that's such a common thought right now.
Yeah.
And I agree with it. He's definitely a buy. If you're the manager of Bucky Irving, you try and get as much as you can, because, you know, my thing with Bucky Irving is, and when I say, you know, I didn't expect anything from him, he was a 4th round draft pick. When you see running backs picked late like that, you're not anticipating, you know, them getting that much run, especially in their first season. But I believe, you know, they hire a new offensive coordinator. They just did it recently. I don't remember the guy's name, but Todd Bowles has absolutely crushed on selecting offensive coordinators the last 2 times. They both turned into head coaches.
I believe it's the passing game coordinator from Denver. Or
Actually, it was an inside hire.
It was an inside hire.
It was an inside hire. Yep.
Okay.
I just don't remember his name, but he's crushed on picking his last couple offensive coordinators. They turned into head coaches, so I don't expect any downturn from this offense at all. Just going based off history, so he's definitely someone I'm looking to acquire if I can.
Yeah. I agree with you. He's definitely a buy, but you have to be realistic on your buy. I think because, like I said before, he's probably the most sought after dynasty asset this offseason. So if you're someone who has Bucky Irving and someone's willing to, throw the boat at you for
Absolutely,
it, like don't be afraid to get out. Like I said earlier in our quick question, right? This running back draft class is loaded with talent, right? So if you can get, a first and a second, or 2 firsts for Bucky Irving, like, you pull the trigger on that and you don't look back.
Yeah, and Rashad White is not a bad running back by any stretch of the means. So we could be at the same time next year and we could have completely flipped our conversation.
Absolutely, right. And touchdown regression is a real thing, right? One of the big things that Bucky brought for you is, on the back of 8 touchdowns, and that's not guaranteed. Touchdowns aren't a predictable stat, so you could see that come down, and then that hurts his fantasy value next season.
Yeah, and he was used in the passing game, not as much as if you really are considering him to be like the number one option. You'd like to see those passing numbers go up, but I just don't know if they will because of Rashad White.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move into our running back 11. Running back 11 is James Conner, Mr. Eternal himself, right? Drafted as running back 20, finished as the running back 11, 249.8 fantasy points, 1,094 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry. And then, really not known for his receiving work, but he gave it to you in the receiving game this year. 47 receptions on 55 targets, 414 yards and a touchdown. First half of the year he was the running back 15. Second half of the year he was the running back 7. James Conner, you didn't expect him to be the focal point of the offense, right? We come into the offseason, or from the offseason coming into the regular season, you're thinking this is going to be the Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. show, where he's going to throw this ball all over the yard and he's going to run the football. Yes, James Conner's going to get involved, but it wasn't like that. Like, he was the focal point. Everything ran through him first.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, kind of crazy, he held up during the year. Like, James Conner's not someone that you're known to give you a full fantasy season. Granted, he didn't end up playing all of week 17. I think he got hurt within like the first series.
Yeah,
but,
that hurt.
The amount of games that James Conner gave you is kind of crazy for someone his age, right? He's 29.7 years old. He's going to be 30 by the start of the season. But yeah, James Conner, what a season. Yeah,
this was the most games he's played in his career, dating back to his rookie season where he played 14. Other than that, he was playing 13 or 10. So the age monster hasn't caught up to him just yet. He is someone that I acquired mid-season in Dynasty. I believe it was a first-round pick in Christian Watson. I was weak at running back. I needed some extra depth, and this guy is just an angry runner.
Yes.
Angry runner, like feet to the pound into the ground.
Yeah.
And like you said, the offense started with him. Like, the drive started with him. That's how they opened up their passing game, was through James Conner. So he was a huge running back option. Fantasy championship, that hurt really bad. When you needed him most, you get the injury. But it was the highest opportunities of his career. He got 61 of the running back targets, even though there weren't a lot. He was still getting the majority. And he's huge in the red zone, which is what you like to see with these running backs, is finishing those drives and scoring those touchdowns. So I guess for future outlook, he is going to be a year older, which then makes me think, is a sell opportunity coming? And I think it is. As an owner, I do have to start thinking about that. I've been in a position where I've had older players like Mike Evans and Devontae Adams, and I might have let go a little bit too early, but I would rather be early than hold on too late and not get anything in return.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. being able to cut bait early. You might get a good season out of someone like James Conner. Yes, he's going into his age 30 season, but if you trade him now in the off season and he has a good season, it is what it is, because that father times always comes. You know what I mean? So he's gonna eventually fall off. So you recoup the value while you can.
Yeah, and you definitely want to do it in the off season because you never know what can happen week 1.
Absolutely, because listen, off season trading, I love dynasty football, fantasy football. The offseason, when you're making trades, you're doing it on the promise or the prediction that this is going to happen. Nothing's ever concrete. So if there's more perceived value in the offseason for someone like James Conner, who came off of a great season, but the future outlook, like he's going to taper off, you capitalize on that perceived value now rather than, the actual value when you're in the middle of the season.
Yep.
So, all right, we're going to move into our top 10. Number 10, our running back 10 is Chase Brown. Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. Drafted as the running back 39. Finishes as the running back 10, 253 fantasy points, 990 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4.3 yards per carry. And he did it in the receiving game too. 54 receptions on 65 targets, 360 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He was the running back 21 in the first half of the season, and then finishes in the second half of the season as the running back 5, right? And that right there, at the top of this, when I was talking about giving you the whole story of a running back, this is a prime example, right? Chase Brown, someone in the first half of the season, he's the running back 21. You don't know what to do with him. Like, sure, he probably gave you a little bit better value than where you got him at running back 39, but you probably expected a little bit more. He's sharing the backfield with Zach Moss, and then in that second half of the year, Zach Moss gets injured, and it becomes the Chase Brown backfield, and he didn't disappoint, right? He gave you the running back 5,
yeah,
which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it didn't take long for him to overtake Zach Moss up until week 5. He had only gotten up to 40% of the snaps, and then from week 6 on, he was 50 plus. Even into the 80s and 90s. So it was nice to see him overtake Zach Moss. Another guy who they didn't use a lot of draft capital on him. He was taken in the 5th round.
Right.
So when you take guys that late, you're not expecting them to really break through, especially when you have a proven guy like Zach Moss. But man, Chase Brown, so explosive, just crushed his ADP, which was awesome. Big in the receiving game, which was nice. You like to see that with running backs. Huge in the playoffs.
Yep.
But my thing is with him being a 5th round pick, does Cincinnati bring in another running back, whether it's draft or free agency? Is that something they're considering? Although I don't think they necessarily have to.
No, they don't. But the thing is when you have late round draft picks that hit, like a Chase Brown, or someone who comes to mind is like Kyron Williams, or Damian Pierce. When you're a 4th, 5th round running back, you're not sold to that person. You know what I mean? Like, you spent a late round pick, he hit, that's great, but if there's an opportunity for you to get better at that position in the draft, like teams don't hesitate when that happens. So that is one of the concerns that I have for Chase Brown moving on in the future. But I'm just looking at his box scores from week 9 to 15, he was the running back 5, 10, 11, 6, and 4. Like, that's awesome to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's great to see someone late round value. I want to say he's been with the Bengals now for he's only second year. So it's great that he's returning on value this early for them.
Yeah, and to see him perform this well while Joe Burrow's just destroying through the air and having this fantasy finish is a really good sign, because I don't think that offense takes a step back anytime soon. Joe Burrow is that guy. Jamar Chase is that guy. Maybe, and if they lose Higgins, Chase Brown's opportunities could even increase.
Right, exactly. So we'll see what happens with Chase Brown. All right, we're gonna move into our running back 9. Running back 9, my guy, Alvin Kamara. Drafted as a running back 16, finishes as the running back 9. 264 fantasy points, 950 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.2 yards per carry. He always gives it to you in the passing game. 68 receptions on 89 targets, 543 yards, and 2 touchdowns. First half of the year, he was a running back 2,
Nuclear.
which is insane, right? And
that was when we thought the Saints were going to win the Super Bowl.
Right. That was when the first 2 weeks, right? The Saints, like, they put up like 50 points each week on their team, on their opponents. And then second half of the year started to taper down. Olave goes down with an injury. Carr gets hurt, comes back, gets hurt again. I believe Kamara was dealing with some injuries himself towards the tail end of the year, but was the running back 19. But the thing is that, like, Kamara, I think we need to put Kamara in the conversation of a Christian McCaffrey, because he always produces. He gives it to you both in the passing game and on the ground, and he's always consistent. Like, in a second, I'm going to pull up his fantasy finishes for the season, but he's an elite talent, and the fact that he is going to be 30 years old, I'm not afraid. I'll draft Alvin Kamara again next year. So what do you got for my man Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, he's essentially another receiver out there. It's not like they're drawing up plays just for him to catch the ball. Like, anytime they're in a passing scenario, like, he is an option, and in some cases he's like the second option or even the first if Olave's down, because they don't have the greatest talent in that receiving room. But yeah, he is 100%, obviously not to the level of Christian McCaffrey, but when you're talking about running the ball and catching the ball, he does it on a year-to-year basis. We've seen it every time, or every season he's had. And the age, I think he's in a Derrick Henry scenario where the age probably it shouldn't matter. He keeps proving that he can continue to produce. And this is all even with bad quarterback play, which is a good sign.
And I know it may seem like it's a clickbaity take or anything like that, but like someone like Alvin Kamara, he is in. I believe he's in the same conversation as Christian McCaffrey, because he does the same things, but he also finishes seasons, right? So I'm looking back at his fantasy finishes. He finishes the running back 3, 4, 9, 1, 8, 16 on a down year, and the running back 11 this year, the running back 9. And every year he's played at least 13 games. You know what I mean? There are years where Christian McCaffrey is giving you like 2 games and he's done. So Alvin Kamara's kind of always been there for you.
Yeah, he seems to be a guy who can skirt away from injuries and give you a full season of production. He also had he tied his career high for percentage of running back targets this year, or the target share, excuse me. So I don't necessarily think the age is something to really be scared of just yet.
Yeah. One thing that I think is important for his fantasy value next year is I think you need the continuation of Derek Carr. I think him having a quarterback who is not as mobile and doesn't move around the pocket that well, he gets a lot of dump offs, which kind of benefit him in a PPR. So someone like Derek Carr staying in New Orleans is, I think, is huge for his game.
Yeah, and he only scored 8 times this year, so he did this all, with just producing yards wise. He wasn't a big time touchdown scorer.
Right, absolutely. All right, running back number 8. Mr. James Cook. James Cook was taken as the running back 14, finishes as the running back 8, which is awesome. 265.7 fantasy points, 1,009 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns. I remember James Cook last year. I think he only had 2 touchdowns, and that was one of the knocks on his game, was like, this guy doesn't score touchdowns, and here he goes. He gives you 16.
Yeah.
4.9 yards per carry. 32 receptions on 38 targets, 258 yards and 2 touchdowns. First half of the year, he was a running back 10. Second half of the year, he was the running back 8. Like I said, James Cook, Mr. Touchdown, and I believe he set the Buffalo franchise record for rushing touchdowns in a season.
Yeah, I think he might have tied Josh Allen.
Yes, that's right. He did tie Josh Allen. But What a season for James Cook.
Yeah, this is the running performance we've been waiting on for James Conner. Buffalo always has a good run game, whether it's with Josh Allen or James Cook. But I think last year was kind of that first year where like, all right, like this guy needs to break out big time. And he was still a running back 11, definitely not a bad year at all. But this was the season that people have been anticipating, and scoring 16 touchdowns also helps. And also being able to score 16 touchdowns with someone like Josh Allen, who can put up an insane amount of rushing touchdowns.
Right.
They did have a weaker receiving core, which helped him out. But he got 61% of rushing attempts, and they still use Ty Johnson.
That was so. It's I don't know. It's so weird to me that like you have someone as dynamic as James Cook, but then they third down they always rolled in like Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He must have like won the trust of the coaching staff and Josh Allen, but like you almost wish like could James Cook get some of those third down?
I was just gonna say there was a lot of third downs where James Cook isn't on the field, and I'm like, are we watching the same game right now? There must be something that we're missing, but you would like to see James Cook out there more.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure coming out of Georgia, like that was part of his game, right? He's a smaller guy, just like kind of like Bucky Irving. I think he's like 190 pounds, right?
Yeah.
5'11", 190. And that was just kind of like Bucky, like that was a knock on his game, not being able to run in between the tackles, and he gives you 16 touchdowns on the year. Also, yes, we talk about Ty Johnson on third downs, but like going on in the future, like this is his backfield.
It has to be.
Yes, Ty Johnson's still there. He's probably going to take away some third downs. It is what it is. But like other than that, it's like there's Ray Davis. And that
even he got a lot more touches that I thought was insane.
So hopefully we see a little bit more. And maybe that's just kind of how Buffalo's going to run their offense. Like James Cook is going to give you your in between the tackles, first and second down. Yeah, he can catch the ball a little bit, but then they spell him on third downs with Ty Johnson. But the future is definitely exciting for James Cook. If you were able to buy on James Cook, I would. Yeah. I think it's going to be tough, especially the season that he gave you with 16 touchdowns. But we talk about touchdown regression being a real thing, and if you're someone who is the James Cook manager, you can't bank on him getting 16 touchdowns every year.
No.
So if someone is willing to pay you top dollar for that, like, could be an opportunity to sell.
Yeah, it's definitely a consideration you need to have. I'll just say this: anytime you have an elite talent, you should always be listening to offers. I don't care who it is.
Yep.
You never know what someone is willing to spend or how desperate they are, especially like in season. Maybe they're trying to make a playoff push. So you should always be listening to offers. I don't care who you got. Always take things into consideration. That doesn't mean you have to trade them, but always listen to what people are willing to say. But when we think about James Cook next year in redraft, he's got to be drafted in the top 10 running backs. I would think.
Easily. Yeah.
I don't know how high, because he's not heavily involved in the passing game, and that's what separates those top two tiers of running backs, is that ability to get work in the passing game.
Yeah, I think about it, and like in my head, for me, he probably slots in around the running back 10, maybe the running back 9. So you probably see him either at the very end of the second round, the end of the first round, or the very beginning of the second round. But I think it all matters on what talent is around him at that ADP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there may be a wide receiver that has a little bit more of a better outlook on the season than he does, and I would probably take that that receiver over someone like James Cook, and maybe get a value running back in the later rounds.
Yeah, 18. So my concern is 18 total touchdowns is ridiculous. 16 on the ground, 2 through the air, and to score 18 times and to RB8 is phenomenal for a fantasy finish, but you would think if you're scoring 18 times, you would be a little bit higher. So I think that's where my concern is. We're not necessarily getting a bunch of targets per game. That's where I start to worry about taking him super high.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Moving into our running back 7, Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams. Kyren was drafted as the running back 7, finishes as the running back 7. 267.1 fantasy points, 1,299 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, 4.1 yards per carry, 34 receptions on 40 targets, 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. First half was the running back 6. Second half was the running back 10. I just want to plug in right here. what a mistake I made on Kyron Williams. For those of you who don't know, I had Kyron Williams in our dynasty league from the beginning. I had him, took him very late in our dynasty startup. He sat on my taxi squad, and last year, I played him and loved him, and then for some reason during the year, I tried to trade out, and I think this was my thought process was that Kyron being drafted as a 5th round pick. He's that later round running back. You never know what a team's going to do, and then they draft someone like Blake Corum, who I believe they drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round, so it was a little bit before what they got Kyron as. Yep. And in my head it was okay. They're gonna trade it. They're gonna switch off, and either this is gonna be a shared backfield, or eventually it's going to turn into Blake Corum's backfield. Yep. And I was sorely mistaken. We look at some of the fantasy finishes, from week 3 to week 8, he was a running back 3, 13, 5, 12, 10. Well, tell me how I was incorrect on Kyron Williams.
Yeah, well, first off, I forgot this trade even happened. So, you know what? I got to tip my cap. It's a big man move of you to admit when you're wrong. And, everybody's wrong at some point. So it just sucks that it had to be Kyron Williams, especially when you have him from the start. The guy's a TD machine. He dominated for you in the playoffs. He's a young guy who owns his backfield, which is great. Super consistent, 7 top 10 finishes. It was a career high in rushing and targets, which is what you love to see. His ADP has got to go up. You do start to wonder what direction they go in for quarterback. They just, Matt Stafford is still weighing his options if he wants to come back and play next year. Whether they have Stafford or not, I still like Kyron Williams. But when you have a guy like Stafford, I think his Kyron Williams' potential is always going to be higher than with anybody else. So you have to wait and see what's going on with that. He's a great piece for Dynasty, and obviously if you can go get him, you would love to do that. But the price is insane. If I'm the manager, he's someone I'd like to keep. Yeah.
For those of you who are wondering what that trade was that I did for Kyron Williams, it was Kyron Williams and my 2025 second, and in return I got Jordan Addison and 25 first this year, which I believe is the 106.
Okay.
So
could have been worse.
Could have been worse. I feel like it's fair value, but now after the season that he had, it's like, the value is definitely more than Addison and a first. So, but for those of you who have Kyron, hold on to him.
Yeah.
Don't do what I did.
He's only played 3 years and he's been the RB6 2 times.
Yes. So which is awesome. All right. Running back 6. Running back 6 is Josh Jacobs. He was drafted as the running back 11, 289 fantasy points, 1,330 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry, 36 receptions on 43 targets, 342 yards, and is that a receiving touchdown I see on that stat line?
Yes, it is. First of the career. I remember hearing that, and I was like, that can't be right. And right? I spent the next 10 minutes online trying to figure it out, and sure enough, it was real.
How many years in the league is Josh Jacobs?
I want to say like 6.
5, yeah. 5 years in the league, and
Jesus.
Year 5, he finally gets a receiving touchdown. First half of the year, he was a running back 12. Second half of the year, he was a running back 6, and when we talk about Josh Jacobs, I don't think people expected this out of Josh Jacobs, right? He's coming off of a down year in Las Vegas, people thinking that Josh Jacobs is washed. He ends up landing in Green Bay.
Could he have gone anywhere better than Green Bay?
It's amazing. But the other thing though you have to think of, right, is Matt LaFleur, with the way Matt LaFleur runs his offense, is he doesn't use a solo running back, which is odd, right? He doesn't use a solo running back, because you think about the year before, it was always the combo of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Yep. So, the year starts and you're waiting for, like, all right, who's the second guy that's going to come in and take carries away? Like, is it going to be Emmanuel Wilson? Is it going to be, they bring AJ Dillon back, but then I think he was out for the year with a neck injury, and then the rookie who they drafted, his name is escaping me. I'll come up with it. But, you're waiting for someone to, come through and no, it's Josh Jacobs leading the way the entire way.
Yeah, they definitely tried to get Wilson involved, and then obviously Dylan until he got hurt. But Wilson was also dealing with injuries, so it kind of I think they just kind of had to accept that Josh Jacobs is going to be our guy, and obviously they made the right choice.
Yes, Marshawn Lloyd was the guy who I was thinking.
Another guy who they tried to implement.
Yeah, right, but he just kept getting hurt. I think he had an appendicitis, then he had a hamstring injury. Like Marshawn Lloyd had himself a rough rookie season.
Yeah.
But the second half of the year was insane for Josh Jacobs, right? From weeks 11 through 17 through the fantasy playoffs, running back 5, 2, 10, 3, 6, 14, 16. Like,
yeah,
my man was a baller.
Yeah.
And we talk about future outlook for someone like Josh Jacobs. He's on a great team with a great offense, which brings you a lot of upside.
Absolutely.
They're always going to be a team who's going to be sniffing around the red zone or close to it. So we do say that touchdowns aren't a predictable stat, but if you're on a really good offense, like there's opportunities for touchdowns to happen. I would say that Josh Jacobs is someone you might want to go looking for. He's going to be 27 when the year starts. I have been sniffing around Josh Jacobs. I reached out to the Josh Jacobs manager in our dynasty league to see if he was willing to part ways with him. We're still in talks on it right now. So we'll see what happens.
Keep us updated.
You know what I mean? Like, I would say if you can offer anywhere between the 109 to the 111 for Josh Jacobs, like you go and do that because he's definitely worth it.
I think that's definitely fair because we had already touched on how deep this running back class is. So I think that would definitely make the Josh Jacobs manager a little more receptive to that.
Right. And you're offering the between the 109 and the 111 for a rookie running back that he hasn't done anything in the league yet, but then you're getting in return somebody like Josh Jacobs who is has been a beast. So I think it's an even trade. Someone who's trying to get younger, and you're looking for that consistent dynasty piece to get you through the season. I think Josh Jacobs is your man.
Yeah, anytime you can get an offensive piece that's tied to Matt LaFleur, you do it because the upside that that guy brings to any player, it always makes you excited. And then we saw it with Josh Jacobs coming off a bad year. I mean, just absolutely dominated, and it was really good to see. I don't think he could have went anywhere better. He makes Jordan Love's job easier. So as Jordan Love continues to grow, Josh Jacobs will always be that safety net for them.
Right. Hopefully my man gets some more receiving touchdowns.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Can we up that number, please? Like it still doesn't make sense. Like I'm looking at it right now, and I just refuse to believe it's true.
Yeah. All right. Getting into our top 5 now. Top 5 running backs.
Can we skip this guy?
No, we gotta talk about him. Devon Achane is the guy we're talking about here. Miami Dolphins running back, drafted as a running back 10, finishes as a running back 5. 298.9 fantasy points, 907 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry, and then he gives you 78 receptions on 87 targets for 592 and 6 touchdowns. First half, he was the running back 8. Second half of the year, he was the running back 3. And when you look at Devon Achane's season, a lot of it is tied to the health and availability of Tua, right? On games where Tua was there and available, Devon Achane shined.
Yeah.
Right. And then the weeks where he wasn't there, it was more of a struggle. Me being as someone who is the Devon Achane manager in our redraft league, I definitely felt that, weeks where Tua wasn't there, it was more of a slog. We were waiting for him to get involved in either the passing game or, anything like that. And it was really tough. It was more kind of in between the tackles of what you saw. And then once Tua was back on the field, he was so dynamic all across the field, getting everything involved.
His passing game work is insane. Like week 13, 9 targets. Week 14, 7. Like that. When you
he's another receiver on the field.
Exactly.
Right?
And he falls into that.
And that's what I love about Mike McDaniel and running this offense. Like he gets his playmakers the ball no matter who they are, where they are, like they're going to get you touches.
Yeah, he's another small guy. I don't know if I don't remember last year if he had missed a few games due to injury or if they were just because they were working him in as a rookie. But he only played 11 games. But getting 17 games out of him this year is big because he's really not a big guy, 5'9", 188.
Right.
Like he's not a bruiser. But I think that's why he's so effective. Catching the ball and getting in space, like he makes dudes miss, and he's just an explosive play waiting to happen.
Yeah, and the sentiment behind him was like, could he do a full season? Like his rookie year, he was definitely injured. Me having him knowing like he was definitely out with like a hamstring injury. I believe even this year I thought he had gotten a concussion.
I think he left one of the games early. I think it was that New England game, week 5.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then he didn't miss the next week, which is great to see.
Yeah, it was good timing. It was right before the bye.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly what it was. It was before the bye. And that he didn't miss a lot of time. So we'll see what Devon Achane gives you in the future. But when we talk about the future outlook for Devon Achane, spend what you can to get him because he's definitely worth it. If your opponent is across the way and they see Devon Achane on your roster, they're definitely shaking in their boots. Just
absolutely
ask Wu about it in our championship.
Yeah, there's a reason why I want to skip this guy. Me and Malik faced off in a championship 2 years ago. So it was that Thursday night game when the week started. It was Cleveland and the Jets. Who'd I have? Jerome Ford. You had Brees.
Yep.
And they went toe to toe. Both went off. So I'm like, maybe I got a good shot here, or whatever. And then Devon Achane just nailed in the coffin. Like
New Year's Eve.
It was over. It was a wrap. So this guy gives me nightmares. But he has RB1 overall potential every single year with his involvement in both the rushing game and the passing game.
Yeah, and when I think about it too, with this future outlook, I wonder what's going to happen when. Let's be honest, Tyreek's out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to be in Miami anymore. He's cut ties with them. If you haven't seen that press conference, go look back and look at that.
It's about as clear as day as it can be.
It's so clear as day. So I mean, with the absence of Tyreek Hill, I wonder, does Devon Achane get more touches or do they focus more on him and he starts to it's more of a struggle for him to get that fantasy value? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tyreek Hill leaving is a big enough concern where you are trying to avoid Achane. I don't think that's something you want to do. You definitely want him on your team. I just think Mike McDaniel is one of those like super creative guys where let's say in a scenario where Tyreek Hill leaves, is Devon Achane lining out wide? Like right. Is he getting outside?
He already does that now.
Yeah, like you could see that go up, which would be crazy to think about. But it just creates more receiving opportunity, and that's what's going to get him into that upper echelon of running backs.
Absolutely. All right, running back number 4 is Mr. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is one of the other few running backs. I think we talked about it in our last episode, right? Like you and I this year in our draft, we're sitting at 11 and 12, and there were so many good running backs that we didn't take that are showing up on this list, and I wish we did. Derrick Henry is definitely one.
Absolutely,
of them.
He just looks so good in a Ravens uniform.
Doesn't he?
It was like he was born to be in a Ravens uniform. It's just one of those things. Like he just looked so good.
The purple and black suits him well, right?
He's fucking huge.
Drafted as the running back 9, finishes as the running back 4, 333 fantasy points. 1,921 yards, 16 touchdowns. He almost went for 2,000 on you. 5.9 yards per carry, 19 receptions, 22 targets, 193 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, which was nice to see.
Yeah.
First half was the running back 1. Second half was the running back 11. And, with someone like Derrick Henry, I think everyone had just assumed that he was washed and it was over. When he left Tennessee, there was – he could have been productive in some ways, but I don't think anyone expected him to give you a running back 4 season he did. But it's kind of crazy though, because no one expected that. But then when you pair him with someone like Lamar Jackson and a great offensive line in Baltimore, it's like how couldn't
it's
like right?
No way he had 1,900 yards. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, right. Like it's so. It's so insane to think about. I remember when we were looking at some futures, like I think they set his rushing touchdown line to either 10.5 or 9.5, and it was like he crushed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he just keeps beating Father Time, and we saw it a lot this year. You know, you see people always say like, oh, how much money like LeBron spends on his body per year to keep him in that shape as he gets older. Derrick Henry is another one of those guys where he is continuously working on his body, investing in himself, and it shows.
Did you see the post game with him and Lamar on Christmas Day?
I don't think so.
So if you haven't, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at that. But I believe Netflix was trying to do something like almost like Thanksgiving where there was like a treat or something like that to take.
Yeah.
And Lamar, like, it's hilarious because you see Lamar and Derek like look at each other and laugh because they're like, I'm not eating that. Like I gotta keep up this season.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But you know, what do you do with Derrick Henry? Like he's 31 years old. By the end of next season, he's gonna be 32. He's still gonna be with the, you know, this Ravens offense, and you know, I don't know. Does it just repeat? Like talk me through Derrick Henry. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here right now, and we had talked about a couple other guys who are getting up there in age, like James Conner, and I think I'm prepared to sit here and say that. Do you just go down with the ship with Henry?
You might have to,
because he might be that productive until he's done.
Right, because like I think about the value that you could get for someone like Derrick Henry, and like I don't know, let's just like nobody's gonna give you a first for Derrick Henry.
I don't think
like,
so.
Let's just be honest.
I was just gonna say, I think
the age where he is.
Yeah.
So like is giving or taking a second. No matter where it is, you know, it could be early, middle, or late, you know, is it even worth it? Because like he could turn around and give you, all right, it might not be 1,900 yards, but like he could give you, you know, 1,410 touchdowns, which is a phenomenal season.
Absolutely.
Like, and I don't think I want to miss out on that. You know, we obviously we talk about, you know, cutting bait and getting out on guys early, but like when you have elite level talent and just exceptional athletes, like Derrick Henry, like, these might be the ones where you want to just hold on until there's nothing left.
Especially being a part of that Ravens offense, they're always going to be dominating on the ground. So I think I would be willing to go down with the ship with Henry because, like you said, everyone else in your league is going to be conscious of his age and that cliff that everyone is assuming is going to happen at some point. So the return might not be anywhere close to what you would even want. So I think he's definitely, I think he breaks the rule in terms of age, and I would be willing to, you know, hold on until the very end.
Absolutely. All right. Moving into our running back three. Running back three is Mr. Bijan Robinson. Bijan was drafted as a running back 2, finishes as a running back 3, 340.7 fantasy points, 1,400 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns on 4.8 yards per carry, 61 receptions, 72 targets, 431 receiving yards, and a touchdown. First half of the year, he was the running back 4. Second half of the year, he was the running back 4. You know, Bijan is just a dynamic talent. You know, he finally, I think he's finally kind of stepped into what we all hoped he was coming out of Texas. You know, a dominant runner on the ground, also giving you just insane talent in the receiving game. And he's only 23 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's in the prime of his career. Like,
I don't even think he's gotten to the prime of his career, to be honest.
Yeah, he's might be right before it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Which is insane. You know, easily your dynasty running back 1 overall.
Yeah.
I think in my honest opinion.
I agree.
But you know, what is there to say about Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his finishes this year. From weeks 13 to 17, he went 2, 8, 11, 8, 5, and that's right in the meat of your playoffs. He destroyed me in the championship. It was just one of those days where I'm like, yeah, I got no shot. But he does everything. He catches the ball out of the backfield. You know, he dealt with. You know, Kirk Cousins had a good start to the year. You know, he's working back from that Achilles injury. You know, he is older, but you know he was solid. He was serviceable, and then all of a sudden he just fell right off a cliff. Yeah. And then they turned to Michael Penix, and even with Penix, you know, starting his first few NFL games, like he was still there. He was still producing. And there's really only so much you can say about this guy. He's a workhorse back. He's going to get everything. He finally beat the Tyler Algier allegations.
Yes,
that made no sense to me. So I'm glad to see that story's over.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, though, because Tyler Algier was a good talent. I remember coming out of BYU. He was a great runner. And, I think he set the Falcons rookie record for rushing yards. So
Okay.
like he's no slouch.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good talent. But I think you saw when Raheem Morris coming in, realized the talent that he had, and he was like, we're gonna utilize Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, you have to. And going forward, he's in the RB1 conversation every single year until proven otherwise.
Until further notice.
Yeah.
My one question for you about Bijan Robinson in redraft. Bijan Robinson is the running back.
I'm going to go 2. Yeah, I'm going to go 2.
Okay.
I like Gibbs, and then I like Bijan.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to put him.
Interesting. You're putting him ahead of this next guy that we're going to talk about is Mr. Saquon Barkley. Saquon drafted as the running back 4, finishes as the running back 2. Again, we talk about in our redraft draft of players
Stared him right in the
we
face.
should have taken.
Yep.
Saquon Barkley is another one who sat there. Saquon gives you 353.3 fantasy points, 2,005 rushing yards. Should have had more. 13 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry, 33 receptions on 43 targets, 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. First half he was the running back 3, and just the second half of the year he was a running back 1.
Yeah,
right?
why not?
Saquon Barkley. I think the reason why I'm gonna back us up. How about that?
Okay.
The reason why I think Wu and I were so afraid to pull the trigger on Saquon Barkley in that draft is the sentiment behind him was he hardly ever finished a full season in New York. He was one of those talents that you kept waiting to. Other than his rookie season,
Yep.
I don't think he really had a season where he was, really broke out and dominant. I'm just gonna double check myself.
Yeah, he was an RB6 a couple years ago.
Yeah,
but
so-
at the talent that he has, you want him
Right.
higher.
I think he was a RB3, dynasty talent
Yeah.
every single year. So,
Oh, yeah.
Some of those finishes were a little lackluster, and it's a new team, it's a new system. You're afraid that Jalen Hurts is going to, vulture touchdowns from him. So, I think there were some, red flags that you were afraid of, but,
and that offense is just loaded to begin with.
yes. Yeah. But then again, on the devil's advocate side, it's like, how could we have not seen this happen? Same thing with Derrick Henry. Like you put Saquon Barkley where we were always complaining that he never had a great offensive line. All right, let's give him a great offensive line and see what he does with it. And he puts up a 2,000-yard season.
Yeah, and that week 1 game against Green Bay in Brazil was just the biggest FU. Like 2 on the ground, 1 in the air in a really close game, international setting. Like it was just like, yeah, I'm here. Like, what were you guys thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like, but the other thing too is like, Woo, what if I told you that Saquon Barkley only had 278 receiving yards and Jalen Hurts had 14 rushing touchdowns? You probably think that Saquon had an awful season, right? But no, like he's able to rip off, 2K yards and 13 touchdowns. I think the big thing about it though was a lot of his touchdowns, and I don't have this stat in front of me, were like just housed from 50, 70 yards. Like you're just seeing Saquon streaking down the sideline, and it's like, all right, well, that's awesome to see.
Yeah, that was a
awesome
30-second possession. I think he tied the record. I don't know if he tied it or he beat it. I think he had 4 60-plus yard rushing touchdowns in regular season and postseason. So I think he only had 3 during the regular season. Still insane.
Yeah, I'm looking at his box score. I don't know if these were all houses touchdowns, but he had one game where it was a long of 65. He had a long of 72, 68, 55. Like
once he gets past that first level, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, it's
there's
gone.
There's not a lot of secondary guys who can take him down.
And he had one in the playoff game against Washington.
By the way, Future's still alive.
Future is still alive. Let's
go.
See. So, Saquon is going to be. Let me just double check the age. He's going to be 28 years old. Definitely by the start of the season. Are you afraid to go after Saquon at being 28 years old?
No, I think he's kind of still in that sweet spot. I mean, just looking at him athleticism wise, like if you're actually worried about age, he does not rip off that backwards turn hurdle mid game.
That's probably the greatest play that I like. When I think of like greatest plays, like in my head, just off top, obviously the Odell catch,
Yes.
is one of them. The Jefferson catch against the Bills,
Yep.
is insane. But that one might be my favorite athletic play ever.
When that happened, I watched the clip of the sideline reacting probably 25 times just to watch every single person react differently. I mean, that plays just. It's bonkers, man. That's why I'm not concerned with him at all. Literally, my only note on him in our doc is insane. Like, what else can you really say about the guy?
Has a chance to break the rushing record every year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we'll see. All right. We got one more left, ladies and gentlemen, for you, and I am delighted to talk about this person. Your running back one is Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, we're going to go back to our redraft league draft. I was worried, did I take the right guy? There was Saquon Barkley sitting there. There was Derrick Henry. But no, I decided to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, and he gives you the running back one season. Drafted as the running back 5, 361.9 fantasy points, 1,412 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry. 52 receptions on 63 targets, 517 yards, and 4 touchdowns. First half, he was the running back 5. Second half, he was the running back 2. And if you were someone who had Jahmyr Gibbs on your roster, you loved it. He was probably league winner, absolutely. He was probably someone that first half of games, just don't watch Lions football, because first half of games, it's all David Montgomery. I don't know why, but I do know why, because David Montgomery is an elite running back. But it's all David Montgomery, and then they stroll in Jahmyr Gibbs here and there, and then he's just lightning on the ground and just gives you such he gives you he almost went for 2,000 all-purpose yards. He had 1,400 on the ground, 500 through the air. Like he's a dynamic player, and you love to see it.
This is why Detroit took him with the 8th overall pick a few years back. Like, I remember they got some pushback for that. But I mean, he was gross at Alabama, and he's the RB1 in a season where he's splitting touches with Montgomery. Yes, Montgomery missed games late in the year, but it was pretty even split, that first half of the season. So to be able to do what he did, with limited touches, it shows what kind of talent he is.
Yeah, I think this season showed you that you should not be afraid to take Jahmyr Gibbs no matter where he is.
Nope.
Because he can do it even if he's splitting carries with David Montgomery. And David Montgomery was also no slouch himself in the receiving game, because like that when he was in Chicago, that was what he was a dual threat kind of guy. So, it's great to see that, both running backs can be productive and talented in the offense. Obviously, if David Montgomery goes down, you have yourself a league winner on your roster. And obviously you don't wish it upon Jahmyr Gibbs, but in vice versa, if Jahmyr Gibbs goes down, David Montgomery takes all the touches. Yeah.
And the nice thing about Gibbs is he has age on his side when it comes to him and Monty. Eventually Montgomery is not going to be what he was. So it's only a matter of time until Gibbs just rips off, it just stupid numbers.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably like, well, Ben Johnson leaves and they bring in a new OC, and it's like, I'm not worried. When, you have an elite level talent like Jahmyr Gibbs, it does not matter who they bring in. Like, they're going to find a way to get him the ball. And if not, the people are going to let him know.
Absolutely. That the offense will still continue to be aggressive under, Dan Campbell. So I have no negative thoughts for Gibbs.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up episode 3 of the Fourth and Fantasy podcast. Here we are chugging along. We're bringing it to you each and every week. We're excited to keep this going. Please show us love. Again, Twitter at Fourth and Fantasy Pod, Instagram and TikTok at Fourth and Fantasy. Check us out on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just keep the love going.
Yeah, like I mentioned at the top, all criticism, good, bad, we don't care. We want to see it. We want to continue to grow, make these episodes better every single time. We enjoy what we're doing. This is something that we do for fun. It's not like there's a dollar amount tied to what we're doing. This is all just out of love for the game.
Love.
We want to hear everything you have to say. Definitely check everything out. We got social clips coming up. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.